Jacksonville, Florida, a gunman who ended up killing himself. But we know from his manifesto, this is according to the local sheriff, set out to kill black people and killed 2 shoppers and an employee at a dollar store in Jackson, Florida. It's being investigated as a hate crime. The sheriff came out and was pretty explicit.
I mean, he had apparently tried to go to a local HBCU beforehand, and was turned away by a security guard, and then he just went down to the dollar store.
He was wearing a shirt over a tactical vest, mask and gloves. And this, I guess the whole thing lasted about 11 minutes. Here is Jacksonville City Councilwoman Jacoby Pittman spoke with CNN.
This is a tragic moment. My heart is heavy, and I'm just tired seeing all the shootings. You know, we have 4 districts into one, and as a community, the mayor and I was just together on this past Thursday, and we want a solution. Our sheriff is doing the best that he can, but as an alignment and resources to the community, we got to keep working together. This right here today was a tragedy. And I understand, I think the young man who was doing the shooting, I think he has been killed. But the people in this community, they're hurting. And they have every right to. You know, this makes no sense. I am very, very angry right now. I'm emotional. You know, we got kids in this community seeing all of this, and this is unnecessary. You know, it's unjust that we can't even walk on the sidewalks. We're not safe in any stores, and I'm looking for opportunity. This community needs to come together.
Well, let's pull up. Do we have the I think it was the sheriff. Basically announcing what they had found about this guy.
I mean, the manifesto was well documented, and reportedly, a swastika was etched into the gun. So,
yeah, itself.
It's pretty clear what happened.
Identified, Nazi. What's really amazing has been some of the Republican responses to this. We'll get to that later in the program.
But yeah, I mean, I don't want to hear much about mental health. This is a story about white supremacy.
I mean, look, those 2 things are not mutually exclusive, we should say.
Agreed.
But here, this sheriff puts it, I believe he's the sheriff. Yeah, he's the Jacksonville sheriff. Here it is, T.K. Walters.
Portions of these manifestos detail the shooter's disgusting ideology of hate. Plainly put, this shooting was racially motivated, and he hated black people. He wanted to kill niggers. That's the one and only time I'll use that word. I want to be very clear that there is absolutely no evidence that the shooter is part of any large group. We know that he acted completely alone. If you take a look at the images on the screen, you'll be able to see what he utilized. The weapons that the shooter used today are a Glock and an AR-15 style rifle. This is a dark day in Jacksonville's history. Any loss of life is tragic, but the hate that motivated the shooter's killing spree adds an additional layer of heartbreak. There's no place for hate in our community, and this is not Jacksonville. As a member of this Jacksonville community, I am sickened by this cowardly shooter's personal ideology of hate. Homicide detectives are actively investigating this tragedy, and despite the fact that the shooter is dead, they will continue to investigate this until we have a complete understanding of what happened and even why he did it.
At one point also, he says, the guy is clearly disturbed. But again, the fact that the guy is disturbed, we have a society, and presumably there's no reason to believe that we don't have a lot of societies where there are this type of disturbed people. But their access to guns, and on top of which, the idea that we don't have, we have the whole country was, racism has been here as long, if not longer than the country itself has existed. And the idea that we can just wish it away because, apparently there was a black president, or because you sometimes have black politicians. I mean,
Well, today is the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, the I Have a Dream speech, and Saturday, the day that the shooting happened, the hate crime happened, was the National Day of Remembrance on that front. And it's just a stark reminder that this is so unfortunately enduring systemic racism, and it just underscores how important continued activism in the vein of what we saw on the March on Washington, how important that is.
Yeah, and we should say that that March on Washington was about jobs and freedom.
Yes, that's
and we're going to talk to Richard Collenberg in a moment, who has a very interesting perspective. He has written in the past about affirmative action. At one point, years and years ago, in law school, had felt that it was in legal jeopardy. I mean, we're talking 40 years ago, 40 some odd years ago. And has written extensively on other mechanisms to use based upon class or really geography as a means to both get racial and class diversity in universities, and broadly for benefits for society. And largely that's the theme of Excluded, how snob zoning, NIMBYism, and class bias builds the walls we don't see. We'll get to that in just a moment.